Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the review. It's the only League of Legends show where you leave with less knowledge that you came in with, and to help us lose that knowledge, we got Will, Meteos, got Crumbz, and myself. And the game today is SKT versus RNG. This was probably the most intense tournament or game of the tournament so far.
Let me just give you a piece of knowledge that you won't get anywhere else here. The Royal Never Give Up logo is actually the number 12. It is not an R.
Thank you.
You will literally never look at this team the same way
Thanks
again.
for proving the point of the joke intro that it wasn't actually a joke. All right, let's get into the draft phase here.
I thought this was one of the best games that I've seen in recent years. Like, both teams played phenomenally this game. Obviously, no one's perfect, but I thought this was one of the highest level games you'll find.
And a lot of people gave SKT a lot of flack for, we'll get through the draft, but like kind of being more of a split push comp, but fighting a lot in the mid lane. But I think that can also slightly be attributed to the pressure RNG gives throughout this game. So,
I want to ask you something, Meteos, because Kale has been played a lot by the Korean and Chinese teams, but it has not been picked up by the West a whole lot. It didn't really receive that many tweaks. Do you know what's going on with these teams that prioritize this?
Well, she did get a fairly big tweak with her range form getting moved to level 6.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a pretty big thing. It makes it so she's like, you only have to get through the first, 7 minutes of the game without feeding rather than the first 15 minutes. So that's a pretty big deal in my opinion.
It's basically one TP if you manage to play the lane well, which is a lot easier to do than, all right, my TP
she's
is
in
down.
mid now though, right? Like mid, top, she's everywhere.
Put her wherever you want. There's the Renekton first pick like you were saying last time.
Yeah, so just getting into draft, SKT banned Morgana on blue side, which usually is indicative of wanting to take Xayah Rakan. Morgana known as one of the better counter picks into that because you can play Kate Morgana, which by most pro players' accounts is unplayable for Xayah Rakan. So kind of weird to see that they banned it and then ended up not going for Xayah or Rakan.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Ming has some well-known counterpick to it aside from the Leona or something. But either way, RNG goes for the split, which I always like, just taking half of it and getting yourself, like a jungler you're going to prefer or whatever else you want at early rotation. And then if they want to split it up, these days I think Xayah is the better half by itself.
Oh yeah, Xayah's nutty champion, but Lee Sin's been getting a lot of priority at Worlds thus far. He's been.
No me gusta. I haven't seen
it.
It's fine, but there's been a group of people on Twitter who have been talking about how it's not quite as good as it seems to be.
I think he's really good because he's the safest blind you have right now. You're not going to blind Jarvan. There's too much mobility, and you can get away with Lee into pretty much any jungler right now.
I agree with like half that. I think Jarvan is underrated for sure this tournament. I think that Jarvan is like really one of the best champions because this whole split, right? It's been like Sejuani, Jarvan meta. Mm-hmm. Sejuani got completely kneecapped coming into Worlds. I don't think she's going to get played aside from that one CG game, but I think she's pretty unplayable. So I thought Jarvan was just going to be like top priority champion coming into jungle. I know his matchups against Rek'Sai and Lee are kind of like slight disadvantage early, but the fact that you can just go Cinder Hulk into Stoneplate, he's like the only champion who can get away with that right now.
Yeah, I think Elise is the other one that is obviously pretty high priority.
True.
But she has the magic damage factor, and so sometimes if you're going to have like 2 magic damage soul lanes, that's really rough to run with Elise. You can win with it. We saw G2 do that, but it's not that common.
I do think, I was telling you earlier, Olaf can get away with the Cinder Hulk into Stoneplate Rush. Triumph super busted on the Stoneplate, which I guess works with Jarvan as well, right? You get reset heal off of your exceptionally high HP.
Yeah, definitely.
The Kalista ban was a little interesting to me. I think Teddy played it somewhat recently, if I remember. Maybe I'm.
I don't know.
Makes a lane safe.
Kalista into Blitzcrank though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be Kalista into Blitzcrank.
You don't want that guy zooming up on you.
No,
I mean, Thresh it. I always thought Thresh was okay into Blitz. I was
no, it's the other way around. Blitz is viewed as a hard counter into Thresh.
Yeah?
Yeah, because Thresh stops to throw his hook and you just grab him.
Yeah, but you don't throw the hook. You just both, like,
Thresh not hooking, not a champion.
Yeah, well, at least he has autos and you have an easier time controlling the lane.
He has autos.
Controlling the lane.
I forgot.
Blitz has a shield now. Blitz can break Thresh shield too.
Yeah, okay. I'm on crack.
Huge factor there. No, but
the Flay as well, when he does the speed up box as well, I think can dissuade a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hard counter, but I do know if you ask almost any support, they'll say blitz into threat.
I actually think already the Mordekaiser pick blows though, because Mordekaiser's not a. You just isolate somebody. So if Mordekaiser takes somebody out, now you have blitz Xayah Lee, which I don't think is very good on its own.
I don't know enough about Mordekaiser.
I was about
really
to ask.
it.
Yeah, I was like, it's shown up a couple times. It hasn't looked that good so far at Worlds. What's your take on it?
He really just trade 1 for 1. That's Mordekaiser, right? Get the jungler out of there.
Yeah, I mean, like the objective control you can do by sniping the jungler when it comes to contest objectives and stuff like that, soloing people out, being able to grab their AD carry. Like, I understand there's a couple different things you can do, but I haven't seen it look super influential in the 3 games that it's been around. Maybe 2, Gimgoon.
I think Elise makes it a lot harder for him to play because she just outplays him too easily.
I mean, so overall in these team comps, the late pick TF kind of sets up this 4-1-ish strategy, and they end up taking a lot of TPs. I think Teddy, Faker, and Khan all have TP. And so they're going for, I think the most common play you see with a setup like this is like the TF shadows the Renekton, they get a pick off, and then it forces the enemy team to stop the 2-man who are now going to be pushing, or brute force on the other side of the map against 2 people who can join. And I think that's why people started criticizing SKT over the course of this game, was you didn't see that much of that game plan. But like I was saying, you're doing it against a Lee and Blitzcrank, who can just run at your 3-man, who you're leaving in the mid lane, and start a fight relatively easily. As well as Zoe around turrets is a nightmare.
Yeah, I actually thought the Zoe last pick was kind of strange to me because, like, by no means was it a terrible pick in this game, but if the enemy team blind picks TF, that's pretty much allowing you to pick whatever you want into it. TF is really punishable by aggressive champions. He can't really punish a hard scaling champion, so I guess Yahoo just felt like Zoe was going to be his best champ in this game.
Was Syndra banned here?
I
actually think Syndra would have been pretty nasty.
I saw the bans on the screen a second ago, but I don't know. Yeah, so I definitely think early game plans for SKT is going to be playing around the top side. It's Renekton into Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser's got no mobility whatsoever. Renekton's always going to be able to just get on top of him and stun him to set up a gank. Plus you've got Gragas, who's got strong ganks, and TF, who's always going to be looking at all sides.
I've been seeing Gragas' level up E-Max first. What's your take on that? What are you maxing right now?
E-Max on Gragas. I've seen that more with support Gragas. Usually for jungle, when you go like the AP build, I just see Q. Because
so I thought it's been scaring most recently. He was running E-Max, and I was like, what's going on?
I think it's reasonable. I haven't seen it much, but I think it's like comparable to Q for sure. If you can go in more. Part of the reason I like Q is because it allows you to do a little bit more without fully committing.
Yeah.
Like you can get some poke off, you can just lay a Q down in a choke point.
Clear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, in maybe it's a difference too, where like you do that more in solo queue versus competitive, more playmaking with E if you're maxing it. But
I really like this ward by SKT this game. This was clever. It's something I haven't seen before because generally for bot lane, you're going to assume a bush isn't warded unless you've seen them ward it, right? And so Gragas, what a lot of junglers like doing is starting with Trinket, you put your ward down level 1, and then you back and switch to Sweeper.
Yep.
So Gragas, instead of warding, one side of mid lane like normal, he put it in this bush. So you can possibly cheese out some like Ezreal Qs, maybe a hook, because
I think it's also just good for preparing against Blitz, because a lot of Blitz laning is fighting for brush control, and especially in the early game, there's a couple cheesy-ish things that Blitzes like to do, and that's one of them, is just like start in lane and land a hook if someone's not ready, and so that just makes the laning a lot easier for the first wave or two.
Those are just instances of warding for somebody else, right? It's like your jungler shows up top, drops the control ward, and then turns out you can't gank the guy because somebody's already warded for him.
Yeah, and it's just understanding where they feel most uncomfortable in the early game to do the best thing that they can do.
Definitely. So looks like pretty quiet early game.
I got a confession. I woke up late to watch this game, and I missed a little bit of it. The first time I watched it.
How much?
A little bit.
A little bit meaning?
Some amount larger than a minute.
So Mark has not seen the game yet.
I've seen some of the game.
Okay.
I saw the end.
I was glued to my monitor during this game.
You hype it?
This was one of the best games
So
I've
most
ever
of the
seen.
laning phase I missed. That's most of it.
It's 6 in the morning. I'm in my bed sheets like a burrito. I don't remember what I'm watching. I'm on my phone.
I at least get up. I get a cup of coffee.
Really?
Do some jumping jacks.
Well, that's okay. You're going to get to see it now.
Yeah. I mean, that's more fun, you know? Being able to be like, wow, what a great gank. I didn't see that 4 times already.
Yeah. So, wait, was Ezreal taken in the second rotation? He was,
Second
right?
phase, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird that RNG opted to take Blitz, but not ban Ezreal because Ezreal is like the champion that counters Blitz. Because you hook him and then he's not actually hooked.
Yeah, because the first, it was Renekton and then it was Thresh Gragas, right? So it was until the last rotation for SKT they grabbed it.
Yeah.
Definitely a little weird. I think it might not be just the laning thing.
You can outplay it.
You can outplay it. You can still land them. I mean, as much as it's one of those things I think is really funny when you talk to league players is like everything is the most definitive statement of all time, you know, until it's not. They're like, this matchup is 90-10 and I will lose it every single game if you pick it for me, unless you gank once and then it's totally fine. You know, it's like everything is like that. So yeah, like
okay, I agree with you, except Ezreal can literally get hit by the hook
and buffer it,
still get out of it.
Yeah,
that's a pretty big deal when your champion does one thing.
Yeah. It wasn't the best hill to pick my battle on. My point stands. Not in this example.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess it's playable. I do remember seeing some. I saw some people tweeting about like some bot laners saying that this matchup is unplayable for SKT's bot lane, even with the Ezreal, just because like it's gonna go kind of like this. You're just perma pushed by Xayah, and then I guess getting hooked in return.
Right, because I mean, even if you throw a hook on Ezreal, you're still getting a bunch of his mana out. The cost of E and the Arcane really puts him behind. See, there it is. He can't dodge it.
Yeah, but Teddy's bad.
Yeah, he's griefing. So it doesn't count.
I've never heard of this guy. If I ignore MSI and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think it's also one of the things where if the enemy's picking Ezreal, he's not like a power pick in the meta, so you might think that there's just better bans to be throwing around at that point, where it's like, okay, if you're picking Ezreal because of our blitz, then we're fine with that.
But how many times have we watched an Ezreal this year be really ahead and then makes one mistake because they E forward and the game is over?
That's because we've been watching North America,
no,
dude.
It was Teddy. It was specifically Teddy.
You don't have to do spin like that.
Yeah, dude, come on.
He's not even here.
No, it was Teddy.
Let him rest in peace, all right?
So, I don't know what I was going to say.
Was it about the...
Oh, no, okay, so with the Ezreal, I still feel like Ezreal is the best pick for SKT, even if it's not unbeatable. Like, I would still rather them not be on Ezreal.
You mean in this situation?
Right, it's like, if I'm RNG taking Blitz in first rotation, I'm banning Ezreal.
What about Sivir?
I think Sivir's not a good champion right now.
I think doesn't it struggle into Xayah?
I think Sivir struggles into a lot.
Yeah.
After her last nerf.
Just checking that. What was the last? It was base, right?
I know just a lot of her numbers were lowered, so she just like takes even longer to scale.
I mean, it's one of those things too where a lot of Sivir is about just being able to press a couple buttons and insta wave clear. And if you hit those numbers enough so that you need like an extra auto attack and those kinds of things, it suddenly feels a lot worse.
So I'm gonna throw a wild one out here. That remember when Team Liquid in Spring Finals countered Zoe with a Heimer mid? If you took Heimer here in the bot lane, well, attempted to counter.
Are we on camera? Can you see the air quotes?
If you took Heimer bottom here, you could block Blitz hooks with your turrets and Zoe bubbles as well.
I mean, I don't disagree with the theory of it, but it's kind of similar to what we were saying last time, where it's like, do you want Teddy not on an AD carry? You know, Teddy is so good.
He's good at Yasuo.
Marksman. He's good at a lot of things, but come mid to late game, I want him on what he's best at, or like what he's most comfortable on.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, the argument I use for bot lane picks is, sure, some of these off-meta picks might do slightly better in lane, but honestly, in competitive games, how often do you see it where a lane is just completely blown out? Even in a favorable matchup, that just means like, okay, I got shove, I got a couple plates, I had vision control, I can move first, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, wow, this guy went 0 and 50 in lane and he was not a champion.
Ooh, here we go.
Oh, that was such a good kick flash out of Lee though on Faker.
Yoink. I mean, this is a pretty even fight, all things considered. Effort played this pretty well. Oh. Oh.
Oh yeah, Xiaohu made Zoe look not balanced in this fight for sure.
Yeah. I mean, 2 for 2, and priority for RNG is pretty good.
I think Kartha just carried that though.
Oh!
I think SKT would have crushed it.
Wow, this is, okay. That's actually such a well-played fight by pretty much everyone. I think the only person who made a significant mistake was Faker teleporting a little too deep and was easily turned on, but like, Effort played that really well, Xiaohu played that really well, Khan played that super well.
Do you remember when we had a tweet from the coach of Splice saying, I don't know how I could coach a region that has a 10-man play in bottom lane at 8 minutes in, and then SKT versus RNG makes the exact same thing happen, just like G2 and Fnatic did?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's League of Legends.
Bot lane parties.
Everyone bot.
Yeah.
But before I forget, I want to finish what I was saying before about your bot lane pick. So even if you get a matchup that's maybe slightly better in lane, like a Heimerdinger or something, if you're giving up all your late game scaling, which is pretty much what an AD carry brings, I'm not convinced it's worth it because, you know, if I have Heimer over Ezreal here, like you're losing out on Ezreal's ability to just do massive amount of damage late game and his ability to just sort of like
Kite forever.
Yeah, kite and provoke the other team to engage on them by just walking up and killing people. So I'm not a huge fan of like the off-meta bot lane picks because a lot of times I think it just makes your comp really whack to play.
Yeah, I think especially what you're talking about with like the usually lanes aren't that bad. Like even this lane, which we're talking about being pretty difficult for SKT, farms, you know, 10 CS deficit and they've lost some plates, which is not good, but would you rather be even or slightly ahead and then playing Heimerdinger? I don't know. As yoinked.
Ooh. And there's the Blitz and the Thresh.
Looks great to me. It doesn't look like anything to me.
Yeah, it's just even.
Where I was going. Oh, I was going to mention. It's because we're talking about Group B today a little bit, especially with Fnatic, and I don't want to get us too far ahead of ourselves because I know a lot more in this game, but it applies to Reckless too about some of these picks where you're not seeing him on the things he's best at, which is late game team fighting.
Yeah. Group C.
Whatever, man. We don't do details here.
That's true. It's my bad.
I'm surprised they haven't gone top as much. I assume it's just because the pressure bot's too significant to be able to keep Clit up there.
Bot's money, man.
Yeah.
Down here is free.
It's just so hard to execute your game plan when things are going this bad in the bot side.
Yeah, there's always something to think about. If SKT were to make a top lane play, if RNG can just easily dive your bot lane for you even attempting a top lane play, then a lot of times you can't. You just have to keep defending whatever's like the bigger threat.
You can't go top though. Mordekaiser will take out whoever goes to help Renekton out. He'll 1v1 TF or take down the Gragas.
Yeah, it has to be one of those kind of longer plays. Oh, here we go again. Better port. As well as just more people. That was really
Well, Lee
cool.
left. Lee thought the play was over. He's out there in river chilling.
Yeah. And it's one of the nice things about TF is you don't actually really need that much vision. You can pop that, then see he's not there and go for it.
Yeah, it's a really hard play for RNG to avoid when you have Predator Gragas, Thresh Lantern, and TF ult. Like, that's about as good of engage as you can get.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes in League you just have to understand that they're going to have a window to mess you up, and it's about making sure it's not as bad as it's going to be. So, like, that one was pretty rough, given that it's a double kill, but I don't think they got any turret plates or anything. They just had to reset and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of like boxing, where a lot of times people want to see a perfect game of League of Legends where the team is flawless, but you're going to get hit back, and it's going to be a lot of bruises for the team that wins, no matter what happens, even though they might have played a really good game.
Yeah, I think there's also the you know, theoretically, you can look at... actually, I'll go into it.
There's your hook for hook thing. Yeah,
hook for hook.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is hard, especially with Blitz getting that 100 extra range on his Q, which I still feel like in this Worlds, these players are not used to it.
No.
You know, people have this idea in their head of where they're safe against Blitzcrank, and then have to relearn it.
I wish they got more creative with stealing buffs with Blitzcrank now, because you could get really rowdy with your level 1s.
Yeah, I think...
You can pull over, I think, the Dragon Pit. You can take the red buff on blue side.
I mean, there was a video going around when it was
not
bugged.
sorry, not on the pit, on the ramp. If you go from the ramp before entering, you can yoink the red buff.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk. I think teams might try to word for it, but it could be something to go for. But like we were talking about with the TF ulti, a lot of the time, if you overly respect the enemy's options, like say you're playing against a TF, you can have multiple game plans. You can say, all right, let's have our whole team play safe, never give TF an ult, right? And sure, you might not let TF ult on you, but how much are you giving up to do that? If you're just giving up all lane pressure everywhere, that's not very good. Or you could say, all right, let's just have everyone play aggressive. TF will ult, he will kill someone, but then his ult's down for a long time and will still be aggressive.
Is there anything you learned about TF from playing with Crumbz TF that you didn't know before? Or didn't think about TF before?
Not really. I think TF's fairly like one-dimensional in what he does.
Especially since
it's just about like seeing the windows.
Okay.
He's been around forever. He's a pretty macro-focused champion, and people have been playing him since season 1, so beta even. I think an interesting thing too about like the whole jungler and how this really messed up SKT's game plan. You see how influenced people are by what their laners do, and I think it's one of the things that is sometimes hard to appreciate. Like with G2. How good the laners are really frees up Jankos to go and always be able to execute on some game plan. And it rarely feels like he has to react to what's going on. The way it felt like SKT had to go bot lane here to save their turret and even have a hope of going even in that lane. And they didn't even really go that even. I mean, Uzi and Ming popped off.
Yeah, definitely a huge bot lane advantage for RNG, even with all the people that SKT was just throwing at him repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, the gold's even, but they have double Infernal Drake off that bot pressure too, so it's not just limited to that.
Take a look at the items, though. I think it's even for everybody, really. It's just 1 or 1.5 across the board.
Yeah, I'm sure that the big gold lead is going to be the difference between Uzi and Teddy, and then on the flip side, Khan and Ling.
So I think the triple item Zaya is her best spike, though. The Reaver Rapid Fire with IE, and then it's like this thing 2-shots anything.
Yeah, definitely. Renekton's for sure much stronger than Mord right here. He's got Shojin and another 10% CDR, so he's a big boy.
Yeah, it feels a little weird where you almost always want to go all in. This is interesting though, where both bot lanes going to mid. I feel like it's also really annoying for SKT that you don't really want TF in this situation at all, and now he's going to get punished for it.
He doesn't want to be there.
Oof. Big oof. TF.
I actually remember watching this live, and I thought this was an interesting play. So RNG actually commits for this tier 2 bottom turret, where I think the normal play here would actually be rotating back toward mid and cutting SKT off, because when SKT sees that RNG is going to continue to push bot while the wave's here, Uzi has to back up and give your tier 1. And I honestly think that tier 1 mid is one of the biggest objectives in the game.
Yeah, that's also really sick by SKT, just recognizing that they need to go then.
This is a positive trade for them.
And this definitely works out for SKT. I think this was misplayed by Uzi, because even though Gragas flashed on him, he should still have time to R here before the ult hits him.
Yeah, you can see him start moving.
Yeah, like normally on Gragas, if you E then R, you can always react. The person can flash in that time. The only way you can get it is if you like throw your ult as your E is going, which I'm not sure if Clid did there.
Yeah, you can also just...
The Ranger next to the Gragas, right? Like, what else are they? There's nothing else for SKT to look for at the time, and you're an AD carry 1v3 mid with a tower that is at 2 hits away. I get a feeling you're gonna get dope.
Yeah.
That is a mistake that I think you'll see good players make a lot, is where, especially when you're in a winning position. So Uzi's probably feeling pretty good this game, right? It's like he hardcore won bottom lane. They're 2 Infernals. It feels like this game's in the bag. They just killed Faker. You're getting the bottom turret, but you have to respect what are your enemy's options. And he has to just know there's 3 people on the mid turret. He's probably like, I don't really want to give this turret. It's a big deal. So he just kind of overstepped, got cocky, and it was a really big punish that he died there.
Yeah, I think the point you made about RNG and how they played it out after the pickoff is pretty important, because it's uncontested push. you can probably get it with just one man, but even if you can't, it's not worth what you give up in the mid lane. And now with that, SKT is able to actually keep the tempo up a little bit. They drop the Rift Herald, they're going to get a second turret off of it. And losing your mid lane and how much map control that cedes is actually...
Against a TF is a nightmare.
Yeah, especially against the TF, but against everyone in general. Like, how many more escape paths you have and how deep you can go before the other guy, before you're safe again is a big difference.
Right, it also allows SKT this ability to let TF push up like farther than just halfway because, it's much easier to get that deep vision when you can push them into their tier 2 mid rather than having that tier 1 as the barrier.
It really hurts Blitz and Zoe too in finding their own picks.
Yeah, and just in general, once the map opens up, it does get easier for TF to start making plays. It's one of the funny things that people always went back and forth on, like, do you want to break the map open as TF so that way you can pin them under turrets and go for dives, or do you want to break it open? So.
Right, I think this was a huge moment in the game too.
Oh, he just takes it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Klid just walked up, and I think this was a massive misplay from RNG because does Mordekaiser have his ult here? Can we see?
It's not up according to the replay right here, but I think he did have it. Yeah, if you click on Mord, I'm pretty sure he has it and uses it after. Yeah, he just used it.
Yeah, so Mordekaiser used his ult here.
You can see Klid in the Spirit Realm here. Yeah, this was the play that a lot of people talked about.
Oh, look at Faker behind him though.
Yeah, I mean, it's RNG are just a mess. This whole thing is a mess by RNG. Because Klid's not a threat once he steals it. And then you have your ult on him.
At the same time, though, Mord could just ult Gragas to not even let him smite.
Well, that's
when you get taken to the death realm.
No, this is not a mess for RNG. RNG just wiped the floor with them.
I mean, I think losing your Infernal Drake and getting traded out 2 for 4, 2 for 5?
Getting the steal?
It's a pretty big deal because, I think... How do the numbers work on Infernal now?
It's like 24 at max.
But it's 10-8-6 as opposed to 8-8-8. It starts highest and goes down.
So it's 10, 16, 24?
Yeah.
So 10, it's 10, 18, 24, I think. I think it's 10, then 8, then 6.
No. The second and third are the same increment.
Okay.
I know max is 24.
Maybe. It's 10, 17, 24. That's what it is.
Okay, yeah, they front-loaded the first.
Anyway, but the difference between getting that first dragon and then the other ones is huge. So it's pretty much if one team already has the dragon and the other team does not, it's a much bigger benefit for the team that doesn't have it if they get it.
And it's a disaster from the perspective of what the outcome should have been. You should ult Klid, have him in a 1v1 where Long can just kill him, ideally, as well as the fact that you should be in a position to win that fight. But then, once they lost the dragon, you saw how, they kind of lost track of everything, and Faker ports on the back line, and all that stuff happens.
It all started off of the play in mid and bottom that had still not really been fully reset, so they had no vision. And by the time they got to it, they said, screw it, it's Infernal, it's already here. And I mean, it should have been as easy as Blitz just getting a hook on Gragas, Mort ults him, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, but kind of sad for RNG. They should be up 24% damage increase to 0, but now it's just 17 to 10, which...
Yeah, those are big differences in numbers, as well as they're down turrets, despite having a pretty substantially better early game.
Ooh, look at that Xayah with a QSS rush. I am not in agreement to that.
He picked that up right after Gragas killed him.
He got it right after the mid lane play and before RFC.
Come on, you're Xayah.
Yeah, I think that's a little weird.
What?
I mean...
You have an invulnerability.
Yes, but at the same time, you're able to be a lot more aggressive with this. It's not just a defensive pickup of I don't want to get caught. It can also be when TF ports on me, I cleanse that off and I murder him. And you can also just position more aggressively. You don't have to be scared of the first thresh hook and then you lose your ult and things like that. I don't hate it, but I understand the insta rush is a little much.
I mean, compared to the spike that Ezreal's on right now, Trinity Mirror Mana, this Xayah is probably on the back foot.
Yeah, it's definitely a macro game where one team wants to split and the other team wants to just group and continue fighting. And I do think that the Zoe makes it a little bit hard because you have Mordekaiser who can go into a side lane, but you don't have another TP.
Oh, nice goal.
And this was another massive mistake by Uzi.
Yeah, where's that QSS now?
Oh, he didn't press it.
Yeah, he didn't press.
He didn't press R either.
Yeah,
he ulted in that one.
But he should have ulted on the cask.
Yeah, he didn't ult the Gragas ult. So I think Klid played really well this game. I don't know if he was just finding angles that were hard for Uzi to react to, or if it was Uzi just not reacting. But those last 2 Gragas ults we saw on him were really
Let's go back, because I think
Doublelift has been crushing on Xayah and Kai'Sa outplaying people, and so that's the standard I have for players to play these champions. And I don't think it's unfair to ask if Uzi.
he's not even top 20.
Let's see.
Exactly.
Let's see if can we watch this from Uzi's perspective. I want to see how much
Yeah,
time
like
he had
the
to
vision
react
that
to
he had.
Gragas ult, because Xayah should be able to ulti in response to Gragas ult every time.
Yeah, and they timed it with the Zoe. I'm pretty sure the Zoe pops forward to zone off the turret with the Q, and then that's when Gragas throws his cask. I don't even know if he was targeting Uzi.
So Uzi's going to step
I think
up.
they just clump.
They're definitely going to be calling to finish the turret here, so Uzi's going to be
so
thinking
here comes
about
the
turret.
paddle star where he jumps forward, and
They see him.
So
they see him.
Yeah.
Here it comes. You see 2 things on your face.
That was really poorly played by Uzi.
Yeah, they stacked on top of each other, on top of where it's going to be going back. He wasn't even aiming for Uzi. Well, maybe he's aiming for both, but like that was prompted by Jahu actually. And so Uzi ending up underneath the turret is pretty terrible.
Yeah, uncharacteristic mistake for Uzi, honestly.
Yeah, he's not
so
terrible.
good about.
Yeah.
He's normally so good at these kind of things, but it is a very high pressure game, so these things happen.
Yeah, I forget which player on G2 they were interviewing about it, where he said like everyone's kind of spaghettiing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, this is the World Championship. This is the biggest tournament of the year.
It's the biggest plate of spaghetti that's ever gonna get put in front of you.
Yeah, you need to eat some.
I mean, this is, I think, a pretty huge deal. Like, I'm surprised that the game goes on for as long as it does from this point, because a comp like they have, especially things like this happening, is so good for SKT's comp, where you don't have to worry about the enemy team grouping up and sieging down your mid lane turret, and you can actually go play the side lanes really well.
Maybe they're scared of blitz though. The threat of a blitz at any stage, even if you have Baron, is pretty big when you have an Ezreal that's been getting hooked, a TF that has been getting crushed.
Yeah, but you have Flash on Teddy as well as you just picked up a QSS, so even if you can't shift the hook, you can, you can QSS Flash it off. And I remember I was reading someone talking about SKT's Baron setups after they get them, and like how they don't prioritize getting inhibitors, they prioritize getting gold on the map through taking inners and outers of side lanes and stuff. So I want to see what they do with this to see if they're aggressive enough.
Yeah, it does look like SKT was a little bit slow with this setup. Like after finishing Baron, they went and got a couple waves. They reset, and then they didn't really group to get vision. They just kind of went into the side lanes right away, which, it's good for a split push setup, but it does kind of make your play slow because you have to watch out for the other team, camping, either like ganking mid, ganking aside.
I mean, even this whole time, like a Cloud, would you rather have sieged the turret or gotten a Cloud Drake?
I would have rather siege because I have a TF. Because when you start bursting the base, that guy is gonna always have a win con to backdoor, and I guess that's what they did this game.
Yeah, but exactly what you're saying. Triforce, Lichbane carries from range who can poke underneath the turret as well. Side lane, so you can move between the lanes if they're out of position with the Renekton.
It's the same idea of taking the mid turret early, but a little later into the game, where you have the entire map to play with because of your global, so you might as well go for that. But I respect going for gold because that makes a lot of sense too. If you want to play it slow, you have the map still open.
Yeah, the playing it slow thing though is a little weird. I don't think they really have, like in terms of a damage or like picking up items, I don't really think they outscale.
Was this a second game for SKT?
Yeah, because they played Fnatic as their first game. So this is day 2 or 3. It's the second one.
Do you think SKT can really siege though?
I think you have to be really careful.
I think it's super hard to siege against Zoe because you don't have someone tanky enough to just kind of ignore the turret and dive. It's also you trying to dive a Xayah, and that does not usually work very well. So it does seem like split is probably the best way for them to progress the game.
Yeah, I think as long as you're sitting in front of turrets in some capacity, whether it's the 1-3-1 like they're doing, either way you just,
Like the blitz flashed on it.
Yeah, blitz flash, hook on effort. I mean, this is the concern that you were talking about, right?
Yeah, this was pretty sloppy by effort. He didn't. He had a sweeper up here and he just walked over a ward, got himself killed.
Yeah. That's a yikes.
That's a whoopsie.
Control Z. Yeah.
Oh, I died.
Oh. But now they have to get out.
He has been doing that to Faker all game long, and it's beautiful.
What?
Yeah, this was...
That was really weird by Clid. It's kind of smart, though.
I think this whole play was a little bit strange. It seemed like SKT got kind of impatient once Thresh got caught.
Yeah, it's like, okay, they used their flash. Let's go back on them, but...
All right, guys, the moment we've been waiting for. Support to get pick off. Let's go.
Now we can go. We can kill Ming. And that's what they did. They went for the flashless Blitzcrank, but that was a... Yeah, they could have cut that playoff at so many different times.
You know, the worst thing about going for those supports is both of them are stupid Aftershock supports, so they take forever, too.
That is true.
Yeah, I mean... They didn't get any turrets, right, with that Baron take?
I don't
The bottom
think
turret,
so.
two bottom, I think.
No,
Actually,
they already
is that
had
still
that.
live?
Yeah,
it's
everything's still up. All the inners are up.
Wow, the worst Baron play of SKT.
Yeah, definitely not very good. And now, from that, I kind of thought that RNG was in a winning position after that play because Xayah went from, Essence, Rapid Fire, and a BF sword to the finished IE and another Zeal. And once Xayah gets to this point, she's just killing anyone she touches, like within probably 2 seconds.
It's like the only one that gets to...
Yeah, dude.
You okay?
I gotta go.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's a lethal
Got a little
tempo.
thirsty.
No other... Kaisa doesn't get to go that. Only Sivir was running that before.
I mean, yeah, but just even like the item power spike, getting even items with Teddy, even a little bit ahead because he has more components, I guess.
And he has more crit than Teddy.
Yeah, that's also true. But Teddy has more blue items.
Critical observation.
He has 2 to 1.
I can't argue with that.
You see that Morello is being built out of the Zoe? Is that a Morello Nomicon?
Yeah, he's got a Morelos.
Is there a single champion? There's
Renekton healing a little bit.
There's lifesteal on Ezreal. There's Graga's passive and Renekton.
It's just for the flat armor pen, I'm pretty sure, or MR pen.
But the Oblivion Orb gives you the same.
Yeah, I don't think you need to upgrade it, but...
Yeah,
Because I know this is a conversation that gets brought up often.
Well, it always feels like, I think if there's one talking point I see the most on Twitter is when people do or don't build Grievous Wound items.
I mean, I think you need to have a champion that relies on healing for you to want to build it. And all these champions don't rely on healing. It's part of their kit. So I don't think it's worth it here.
Right. I don't think I would go for it here.
Would you not rather have a faster death cap?
Right.
Yeah,
I would
that's
probably
what
prefer the
Meteos
death
is
cap.
saying, yeah.
Just because Renekton, like he didn't go tabby, so I would only worry about Grievous if you're actually struggling to kill Renekton. But if you have a Xayah that's that fed, Renekton's dying no matter how much he heals.
Yeah, I mean, if you get hit by bubbles or get rooted up by him, yeah, you're doomed. I did like this play, though, the SKT did. You get the pick off and both teams rotate over so they can't get caught off. There's no Baron up for any when they went for that play, so like the way they did that was pretty much textbook.
Yeah, that was definitely something that I remember you brought up earlier about plays SKT can look for, just having TF shadow their Renekton and go for a dive. I guess part of the reason it took them so long to really make this play is because it was Mordekaiser, and once you start that play, he's going to ult and it turns into a 1v1. And
until the map opens up, it's too easy to go for plays on the opposite side. Like, I don't think you can go for that easily if Baron is up, because it might take you too long to get the TP offs.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that Mordekaiser probably could have ulted earlier there. It seemed like he held it for a long time.
I am not the Mordekaiser expert, so if someone argued either way, I'd just nod and be like, yeah, for sure, dude.
Well, considering Renekton killed him by the time he ulted him, I don't think it was perfectly timed.
You know what needs to happen?
I agree.
A school of only one tricks, teaching other people how to play these one-off picks. Like the Heimer bottom, right? You put a bunch of one tricks educating pro teams.
I mean, I know a fair amount of teams do have position coaches, and a lot of pros reach out to one tricks and ask them questions. Korea had a show for a little bit about one tricks.
Really?
Bishu was on there back with Nidalee Mid.
Huh. Oh, really?
Remember old Nidalee
Yeah.
Mid? Yeah, he went on that show, and I think he said a lot of Korean pros actually hit him up for how to play it.
Nice.
Yeah,
So maybe Faker hit him up.
I don't know.
And made his debut off of Bishu's knowledge?
So Bishu could possibly be directly responsible for Faker's success. It's not a stretch to say that. But I mean, I agree. I think a lot of the time with champions, there are some nuances with them that you won't really be able to pick up unless you play the champ a lot, and that's kind of where talking to someone who mains the champ can be really enlightening.
Yeah, I think the hard part from here for RNG is now that SKT has control of the game, and you can't walk up and force them under turrets, it gets a lot more difficult. And this is where I think people start criticizing SKT as using it for this is where I would say you can start criticizing SKT for playing pretty poorly. Like this kind of play is a really random one to me.
Yeah, well, they did get a pick off onto Zoe. They found a really good window where her cleanse was still down, and they just flashed on her with TF, so that was good, but it looks like they just didn't have enough to continue the fight.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those plays where you can go for it, but it's not exactly in your wheelhouse of like win conditions. Of like
It's not?
Like the ideal way is you split the map, you find pickoffs in the side lane, and that opens up the Baron, and you're trying to split push them down. Everyone converging on the mid lane it's a 5v5, and you can use your tools to get a pick at the start of it. It's not like you can't go for it, but it is not exactly like split map, get pick off, then use global pressure, right? It's global pressure to group to fight.
I do think I have to challenge the point a little bit, because when Baron's not up, I think it's easier to go for, but especially when you're at this point, when Baron's alive, it's really, really hard to not contest mid, because whichever team pushes mid is gonna, push you back onto your tier 2 or tier 3, walk into your jungle, ward up the whole thing, deny all your vision, so you never know if the other team is starting Baron or if they're waiting to camp for you. Thresh can't ward it or he'll just die, and so you kind of have to be able to put yourself in a situation where you can fight the other team, unless you just want to either risk giving a free Baron uncontested or getting picked off trying to check it.
I think at that stage, too, with Double Inferno, 5 seconds alone with either of these teams, that Baron is gone. So you have to be ready to collapse.
RNG is a really fast Baron team, but they had pressure, and they can kind of, because if you have the vision, it's easier to cheat your TF away from the Baron, and the enemy team isn't sure exactly where he is.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it? Yeah, this is it. Right?
No, this isn't.
No, because it's later in the game. Yeah, they do the split later.
Yeah, but this is kind of the play you're looking for as SKT. I think that it's probably around here where their Crumbz going to sound something like, okay, guys, I don't think we can actually win team fights. Like the Xayah's just too strong. No one can kill her or compete with your DPS. They don't really have a designated tank, so pretty much the only way they can win this game is through splitting and taking advantage of the fact that they have 2 TPs and RNG has 1.
So another potential setup they can go for is, with Ezreal poke being as annoying as it is and Gragas poke, if you get vision control, the enemy team still has a hard time face checking. Would you ever just put the TF in the side lane? Because I assume he has an easier time abusing the range against Mordekaiser and can potentially take turrets in front of him.
He was just doing that against him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is they could have been doing that setup pre-Baron or like during Baron as well.
I think it's dangerous. The Mordekaiser can definitely turn and kill your TF.
Yeah, I think Mord can just kind of walk up to TF and ult him and kill him. Yeah.
It's like if you chuck out a card that's in range of him to go after you in that cooldown, you're gonna be in trouble.
Gotta go for the RFC then.
Yeah, that's what you need.
It's called frogging.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a super easy game for either team to play. I do think this was one of those situations where...
Like both teams interacted with each other?
Well, both teams' game plan's not super easy. It's not just like, all right, this is all we have to do. They have to really keep in mind what the other team's trying to do too, and not give them a window to kind of make their play work. Because, RNG wants to group up, they want to fight, but they don't have a super clear way of engaging, right? It's like they're trying to pick off an Ezreal who has a Thresh Lantern. That's pretty impossible.
Yeah,
it's not just hard to execute plans. The champions themselves are all actually pretty tough. All of these are, you can easily see how they can lose a fight on their own.
Yeah, and if you commit too hard for something that doesn't work, then you pretty much just lost the game.
Right, if they charge down mid lane or something and they're splitting, you can get in a lot of trouble. This is a pretty good, if I remember this is a good flank by Clear.
this is always the situation in games that, like, anytime I'm on a team, I'm like, let's not do this.
Oh, you were talking about this before. Yeah,
I'll always talk about this. I think one of the worst setups you can possibly do in a game is group your entire team into a side lane. Like, I get that you've broken the mid tower, the mid inhibitor, so you want to go for a side inhib, but I actually think an easier way to get that is you still keep most of your team mid, and you just threaten to flank, right? You have like someone bring in the wave, and then the rest of your team is just kind of pushing them back into their base, like under their nexus turrets. But when you send 5 people top, you really don't have an escape route. The other team can just walk behind you, you can't get out, and you're surrounded.
I like having 2 lanes connected so that you can at least collapse on anybody that's trying to flank you as well, and control a jungle and be able to deny them at least. But if you're in one side, you really are not taking advantage of the resources on the map.
Well, especially in the blue side jungle when you do this, so bot lane when you're on the blue team and top lane when you're on the red team, like those are the ones where you really get turbo flanked because there's just less ways in and out from that path, and they can get behind you a lot easier. So, I mean, I forget which teams it was in NA, but that happened.
It was CLG against Cloud9.
It happens often.
It was back.
It happens really often.
I can't remember which team it is because it was most of them.
That's one of the things that's, for me, I'm just like, that's a trigger for me. If I see a team start doing that, I'm just like, oop, there's
I still remember losing against a game against you guys in the exact same position because we're there and you're Pantheon and you just drop and then we lose and we were winning the entire game.
Yeah, I mean,
we lost to that fight.
We had a game against TSM this split. We were hardcore losing, and then we were like, hey, yo, guys, they're all grouping top. Let's just flank them, and then it worked.
And then, oh, that was the one with Scarlet.
Yeah, that was with Scarlet.
Yeah.
It's pretty consistent from what I've seen. But RNG is not doing that anymore, so.
Yeah. I think either way, the point is, like, this is one of those games where you can say it's sloppy and not playing in win conditions, but it is super hard to find exactly the play. Like you're saying, okay, your mid lane's down, there's only side lanes left. What is the setup that you have to risk yourself a little bit if you want to pressure that turret with your Baron, and they tried to do it, but you saw Clid was such a threat that they just gave up.
Right. So last time we were talking a little bit about jungle picks and the priority on Lee Sin, and I think this is a situation where having Jarvan can be so valuable because if you're Thresh and you're up against a Jarvan, you have to respect his EQ flash R range, which is like 2,000 units. It's basically if you're on his screen, he can reach you. And if you're able to catch Thresh with that, then it's like everything SKT does falls apart. But with the Lee Sin, you don't have that same kind of just brute force ability to engage. And I think that if RNG had more of that, it would make this game a lot harder for SKT to actually be able to hold any control mid.
Yeah.
So I know you like the Jarvan. This is my problem with the Jarvan, and I want to know if you find it as a problem or you're just like, nah, I just deal with it. When their laners are starting to draft mobility, you take your Jarvan early, and then the junglers are like a Rek'Sai, mid lane like a champion with a ton of dashes, like a Corki, and then top lane you got Renekton's, and then the bot lane you're against a Thresh, and an Ezreal. Would you actually be able to execute well and trust your Jarvan in that game?
Well, I think that Jarvan's definitely most effective when he's up against immobile champs that can't get out of his ultimate, but I never think he's bad. I think that you still always have your combo. You can still always just be a tank threat. Respectable damage, very good clear speed, good dueling power. So I just think about, what am I looking for in a jungle champion? Like, what aspects of gameplay do I want him to be good at? And I feel like Jarvan covers a lot of those categories with, he's strong early, transitioning into a very strong tank later. And so, plus just that ability to engage on anything that doesn't have a gap closer. So if they do want to pick something like the TF, that's a lot harder to pull off against something like Jarvan, who's just going to ult you.
Elder Dragon.
Parsa's the smite god, so this one should be free for them.
They see vision.
Boom.
Got it.
Wait, actually, Clid did steal an Infernal from Karsa this game.
Yeah. That was Lung's fault.
True.
What do you think about the Baron setup for that one, where they port the TF down, siege the turret? Do you think RNG, because they collapsed with
Elder?
No, before when they got the Baron, SKT put the TF to just siege with Khan, so Long can't walk up. Do you think RNG collapse was the wrong call and they should have just gone and forced the Baron and then had Long just try and ult someone who's trying to TP in?
That's a really hard one to say, honestly. I don't know if there's a super right answer for that. It's definitely going to be one of those situation by situation things. I think that if RNG can get to Baron and finish it before SKT can like break the inhibitor and start on the Nexus, then that can work. But you always run the risk of, even if you get Baron, if all of SKT is just sitting there canceling your recalls and you can't get back, you just lose the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely a hard situation to maneuver, and I think RNG went for the safer approach, which is not let them in the game. And, you got to give up Baron for it.
Yeah.
There's a dead man's on this Mordekaiser now. Is that the build?
I don't think the Nash's is the build.
I've seen that one before, not the dead man.
I've seen all these items. I think it's a pretty reasonable Mordekaiser build. He does get like the % pen on his E, so Void Staff's not as necessary.
Yeah. I can appreciate the dead man's...
Walk up, stun them with that first auto, I guess.
Well, it just helps you gap close or like get on top of someone if you ult them into your realm so they can't just run away. And especially against like Teddy or Faker, because Faker can kind of gold card you and maybe kite you if you miss your E or something.
Yeah. I thought everyone built pretty well this game. I don't think there was any standout builds to me that were just like, wow, what is this guy doing?
Yeah, I think end of the game's coming up, right?
And they still have Elder, one inhib down. They should just be going bottom, I think, here. I don't know if I can see the inhibitor, the red side bot inhibitors.
Well, that's
up, right?
Yeah, that one's still up. They end up going bottom because that's where all the interrupts happen and when they go for the double TP. So I'm pretty sure they get mid priority to get it pushing with the super creeps, and then they go bottom.
Right, so RNG is definitely going to want to be forcing a play here before it gets to the point where their split push just can set up. And you see right now, Faker's just running through the top jungle, probably trying to avoid vision. And now he gets to the wave. And RNG should have seen those cards. So now for sure, they're just saying like, okay, TF's top, we have to dive. So they pretty much have a one-wave window if they want to do this play. They have to just hardcore dive with this, but...
It's basically like if you fail this play, you're pretty doomed.
This is where I started watching this, and from the beginning...
42 minutes in?
No, this is what I remember.
Okay.
The Gragas was actually just spam shoving the wave from a while away, so he was already on board installing this for quite some time. This is the max Q Gragas, so they already knew that they were going to commit to this.
Yeah, I think that RNG wasn't expecting that bot wave to get cleared from range so easily, with the Gragas Ezreal ult. And
dude, I love Teddy being so all in with the flash on top of the turret over the Mordekaiser. He's just like, get off me.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good play by SKT, just I think recognizing they can't win a fight. And then RNG, obviously it's not an easy situation. After the fact that they lost the game, it's easy to go back and be like, why were you there? Obviously you're about to lose, but at the time, SKT didn't have to go for what they did.
Yeah. I mean, they saw him. They're like, all right, well, let's try it for one wave, and they probably think we'll be able to recall off or TP up if we need to, because they did recall the Mordekaiser already, and so they were thinking that they could get more people and stop it. But I think maybe they lost track of the double TP or underestimated how quickly the turrets.
That actually was another situation of grouping all 5 people into the side lane.
You should do a spreadsheet of how often people are 5-manning a side lane and how often
it's like when Rift Herald was the first thing and everybody would 5-man Rift Herald, and you could tell that anybody that committed 5 would instantly lose the fight.
I remember that a little bit, where it had like insane damage reduction and it wasn't really worth it, because what was the original Rift Herald? It was like a 20-minute buff. That's what you're talking about, right? Not the one where you spawn the thing.
Somebody got stronger, right? It was like an individual.
Yeah, it was like a split pushing buff.
Yeah, it's this weird...
Like a mini Baron.
This is not an important conversation.
There were a few iterations of it.
Yeah, that's why when it initially came out, it was horrible to go after. Returning to the present, the other teams in Group B, Clutch and Fnatic, do we have any hope for them? Does anyone...
I think
hope for what?
Kind of like C9. I think that's...
getting out.
Yeah, they'll be back in LA.
They'll be out of
Europe and back here for sure.
So I don't know. I think that Fnatic, kind of like C9, if they start playing 80 carries, they might look like a totally different team. We've only really seen them do Garen Yumi, right? Or
the Morgana Blitz one as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I just think it's really weird. You're giving up your 80 carry, like Reckless, who's someone that's pretty much made his entire career off being very good at like spacing and A-clicking, putting him on champs that don't really benefit off those skills, and then just drafting like very low damage team comps overall. You don't really have that carry DPS coming in from other roles, so they're just kind of making it hard on themselves, in my opinion.
Those scrims must have really changed a lot of these teams because you get bodied by these lanes bottom lane. You don't know what to make out of it. You say, screw everything we've done for years. We're going to play Heimer Cassio now.
It's definitely hard from the professional perspective because on one hand, you want to keep up with the meta. You want to be able to do what other teams are doing. You don't want to be the team that's like, all right, well, we literally can't play Mage's bot, so any situation that requires it, we're screwed. But at the same time, you don't want to be the team that's like, all right, we're just the edgelords, we're the hipsters. We are. If I see another region pick something for the first time, I'm meaning that until I get an LCS win.
I'm not quite sure that them going to standard helps them enough, though. Like, I'm with you that I want to see them do that, but
okay. But what about Clutch, though?
So the problem with Fnatic, though, is traditionally Uzi has a really good match. Like, they always, individually in the lane, they always match up well versus Reckless. There's a stat that they're like 8-1, and there's more in those games than just Reckless versus Uzi. But they usually end up ceding pressure in CS, and that's something that the Garen Yuumi does help kind of stabilize a little bit.
Yeah, you're never down pressure as Garen. Always up CS with playing.
Yeah, my Garen's doing great. I'm just saying that it's something that doesn't need CS as badly. Like if you're falling behind, it's not a big deal on the Garen Yuumi.
True.
Yeah, but
I don't like Garen Yuumi.
If you want some late game DPS,
why am I even trying to pretend like I'm trying to defend this? I hate Garen Yuumi.
Let's bring it back to what we care. North America, Clutch Gaming.
I'm still sticking with SKT and RNG 1-2 in this group.
I think it's.
What if it was CLG that took that spot? What if it was or TSM? Would any of these teams have done anything here? Everyone's just doomed in that group. There's no chance.
Well, they're currently 0-3, and some of those games have not been close. So
yeah, but there's 0-2.
Yeah, I would love to see them pick up a win. I think they can certainly pick up a win and maybe disturb the standings. Maybe be enough to flip a Fnatic RNG or SKT.
Yeah,
standing, but. I think it's optimistic for Clutch to make it out of groups. Some act of God would need to, help them and hurt all the other teams simultaneously.
The resurgence of the plague, and somehow it doesn't get to Clutch Gaming.
Yeah. I mean, Skarner kind of fell off, so I think that's really hurt.
That's going to do it for this episode of the review for Group C. Their games will be on later tonight/tomorrow, depending on what time zone you're in, I guess. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you think of it in the comments, or you can tweet at us.
Tell us what you learned, too. We want to know.
Yeah.
At Meteos LOL.
Tell us what your brain cells were at before watching and after. Hopefully, they're still there. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.